You want to just start, introduce yourself, introduce the project and everybody on the team? Go right ahead.
Yeah, so my name is Nino. I'm here to kind of speak about a NFT card game project that we're launching here shortly. So I'm excited to kind of share it with you guys. We've been sharing it with a few other communities. I think we built a flip game bot that we actually got into about 75 servers already. So a ton of people are playing it, having a great time with it. And everybody that we've kind of talked to at these real world events like Coin Agenda and Bitcoin Miami, NFT Miami, South by Southwest. I mean, they've been super excited about it and love the gameplay and love that attaches to crypto in a way that you can either really take advantage of it or just attaches people in a way that creates more adoption to the crypto space. So they're really excited about it. So in all intents and purposes, the project is called Flip. Um, and it's basically just a degen card game, right? Similar to games like such as Cards Against Humanity. You'll be able to play it online, either with random people or you can create a room with friends. And there's two type of cards, right? So you have your white card, which is like the majority of the cards. Those are the ones the players get to play, and then there's the pink card that you draw as the judge that people play against. So on this on the game, these are going to be NFT cards. So you guys as users get to mint your own NFTs. So whether you want your white card to say, a Will Smith joke, or if you want your pink cards to say whatever, you get to mint those cards, right? And the way they tie to crypto is they're going to be an NFT. You own the NFT, and the card goes in the deck. Anytime that your card wins a hand, your white card, it actually wins a play to earn token, which you can cash out for money. Anytime the pink card is drawn, doesn't have to win, you'll win a percentage of that hand as well. So it's really cool in terms of like an additional like passive income revenue stream if you have like some really good cards that you mint. It,
Oh, looks like you got disconnected. Uh, I invite you back up if you can. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but try to get you back up.
yep, I'm back. Sorry.
Not sure what happened there, but continue
Yeah,
on.
Yeah, so the card, the NFT acts as a, just a passive income model, especially if you've mint some like really good cards that, last a long time or that are good jokes. Like imagine, you came up with the very first knock knock joke and that joke gets used over and over and over again. You get more money and more play to earn tokens in that format. And in terms of, tying it to crypto, you don't have to even have a wallet to play the game, right? So you just log in or you go to the website, you go to create a game, it makes you make an email address, and through a protocol called Magic, when you make your email address, it ties it to and makes you a wallet. So it that's great for a few different reasons, right? So the first one is people will have a wallet regardless, right? So every time they play, they have this wallet that attaches it whenever they log in to play the game. So the first way that helps is it acts as a burn, right? So if you have 30,000 people playing and a ton of them aren't into crypto, you have a bunch of tokens going to these wallets that act like a burn address because they'll never touch them. They don't know that the tokens are there. They don't care for them, whatever. But the other end of it is now they have a crypto wallet that they have, right? So now it gives them a little bit of this warm and fuzzy blanket of, oh man, now I'm into crypto. Like I'm in crypto now. Like I didn't realize it was that easy. Now I have a wallet. Now I can go do things with it. And when they open up their wallet and they see, these tokens sitting there, now they can say, "Oh wow, like now I have tokens. Like now I can go trade." And they kind of start researching. So the whole point of the game is not only to attach current crypto members to this really cool game and NFTs and like revenue generating model and like financial model, but it ties people that just like to play card games to crypto. So, at Accel, we're looking to create mass adoption and be a center point of like a suite of products and services for mass adoption and getting people in. And what better way to do that, an easier way to do that than through a simple game that people just play zoned out, during their 10-minute break at work or during lunch or whatever, just want to play, when they're at the house with other people, random people, or with a few friends. So it's a really cool idea that just kind of applies to the masses.
Yeah, no, that's great. Cultivating comedy to grow crypto. I like it. But I do really think the idea of getting your jokes monetized is like phenomenal. I know like back in high school sitting at the lunch table and you come up with a really funny joke and then everybody would just steal that joke and then you would hardly even get any credit for saying that. But now if you can get actual crypto tokens for your funny jokes, then I think that's really cool. One question I had regarding getting new people in is if everybody has a wallet and if people are trading with these NFTs, is there like a gas fee that they're going to have in their wallet to cover that, or how does that mechanic work in the game itself?
Ooh, that's a me question. Hey guys, I'm Mad Scientist. I'm the product and tech guy over here. Um, so we're exploring both sides of this, right? There's a couple of protocols that allow us to do gasless transactions on the user side via meta transactions. Um, and that's the direction I'm heavily leaning right now. Just because exactly what you said was if they're having to do transactions, they don't already have crypto, right? And the plan is to have this thing on Matic or Polygon, right? Using Matic. Um, then what we know, right, is you're still going to need some gas. So we'd have to figure out a fiat to crypto onboarding for them and try to explain all that to them. So using these meta transactions is probably the way forward, um, which is what we're looking at. So
Okay, right on. That definitely makes sense. And then, so you mentioned you had a Discord bot that you already had in 75
yep,
servers. Uh,
just shy of 75 because at
okay,
75 we have to be verified.
okay. Is your plan to grow, or kind of grow on top of that? You know, have like a
hmm
website instead of just Discord, or what are
No,
your
that
plans on that?
yeah, the plan is that it's going to be a full-on app, right?
Okay,
It may just be a progressive web app, PWA to start, and then move over to native applications. So that's still like a conversation because as anybody that's tried to make one of these knows, Apple's current stance on this is well, questionable, right? They're not super easy to get through to
yeah,
get
I'd
the
imagine.
yeah, they're very, very protective. We do have some proposals into them to try and see what their appetite is for it currently. I haven't gotten anything back from them on it, but we're hopeful, right? We think we've structured it the right way, and some of our connects over at Apple are saying that it's promising. But
Okay.
the least it'll be a progressive web app to start with. The Discord bot was literally just to get people used to play, let them understand exactly what that looks like, and how much fun it is, right? Because anybody that's ever made a game, the one thing we know right now from the Web3 games is honestly not a lot of them are a terrible amount of fun, right? They end
Mm-hmm.
up being a lot of grinding and everything else. So the game's got to be fun first. Fun over everything else because people will only grind for so long. So put heavy emphasis on that and heavy emphasis on making it easy. Um, because while the game looks really easy, and I don't know how much Nino touched on this, the back end of it is actually extraordinarily complex. Because what the back end of it actually is a bunch of real world protocols that we wrote out. So that's things like how do you do royalties and intellectual property on chain and reward people for that? How do you do automated payroll systems? What about affiliate marketing? How do you do that, right? So we wrote out and built all these protocols out, and now we have a way to put them, wrap them in a game, and then you can come play and awesome, right? You've never played before or you've never been into crypto or Web3. Well, here you are, you're in, and now when you're ready, right, at your speed, you can get in. And we can be like, "Hey, take a look." Cuz it's really daunting, right? Like trying to explain everything this technology can do and how far we can take this, excuse me, beyond just currency. It's a daunting task. I mean, anybody that's ever been to the bar, tried to explain it to the next person over, and they just get this like wide-eyed look or, glazed over eye look, right? Because my question is always, how do you onboard the bartender into crypto,
Yeah.
right? I use the bartender as the example of the person whose job doesn't give them any free time to like do anything. They're working 12 hours a day till late at night. They're exhausted. How do you get them in when you have this technology that can do so much, right? Well, in the words of Elon Musk, we have to gamify education. And the better way that you can do that, or the better that you can do that, the better you get. And that's how we work towards onboarding that next 700 million people that are predicted to come into crypto, by gamifying this education process through a game that most people already know how to do and is really simple. And you make it ultra low barrier of entry.
Yeah, definitely.
Really
Cole, if
good
you want to go
stuff.
ahead.
Yeah, I think actually starting with a progressive web app is definitely the way to go. Because even though getting a native application is always nice, I think more and more people are just using the web instead of even using an app or something they install on their computer. So I'm just curious what your timeline is for that. Like, when do you plan to have that progressive web application out for Flip, and when do you also plan on expanding to apps as well?
Right. Yeah. So current timeline is building out the an alpha, right? So it's a progressive web app, just an alpha model, right? So it's not connected back end. It won't be connected immediately back end. Again, bring people in, show them how to play, get them used to it before we just throw them in and put everything on chain. We're currently probably looking at, for just a real basic alpha, about 3 to 4 weeks, with a good beta, if not MVP, by mid-June. Because once we've got that, obviously that front end progressive web app built out, then it's connecting it to the smart contracts. And most of the smart contracts, because this thing is, last I looked, we're at seven different smart contracts right now that run this thing. The all but three of them are at 100%, and the other ones are at 95%, with one of them hanging out at 85%, and that's just because of all the testing. So we've run through currently 287 tests, and we're pushing out to 400 different tests to do it. Um, and now I'm like going off on a tangent, but the one thing that people forget about building a Web3 game a lot, and when they look at these things and they think it's simple, is that the blockchain doesn't care that it's a game. Blockchain does not care. It's just moving these assets around. So what you're actually building when you build a Web3 game is you're building a financial product. So it's got to be tested like you're building a financial product.
Mhm.
And that's challenging, especially when I can't just go in and just push an update to a smart contract. So a heavy side is placed on security as far as development goes, and ensuring that we aren't leaving ourselves open for exploits.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a Web3 developer myself, so I totally understand. Like, there's so much going on behind the scenes that people don't even realize, and a lot that has to go into making sure everything is absolutely perfect. Because with the usual game that you might play, like Hearthstone, for example, imagine if that was on the browser. Like, if there was a problem, you just push a quick hot fix and everybody's happy. But yeah, can't do that with something like this. So I totally get it. And
No,
it seemed, go ahead.
it's the hardest type of software development, because it's you get it right or you don't. Um,
Hmm.
and when you don't, it's real bad.
Yes, definitely. I can agree with that. And it seems like your alpha and your beta kind of align with your pre-sale and your mint. Your says on your Discord
Yep.
that your pre-sale is the 14th of next month of May, and then
Yep.
your mint is June 7th. So was that intentional, just to kind of have like the alpha around the time of
Yeah.
the pre-sale?
Yep. Yeah. If you've been around this space long enough, you know that standard software development, standard development, it takes a long time, right?
Hmm.
But to mint something and then wait 3 months, you're gonna lose community, you're gonna lose people, people are gonna get frustrated and everything else. So trying to keep those timelines as close as possible, So if there's a constant show of progression as we continue to move through is super important. Made that mistake with a couple of things in the past, not going to make it again.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's definitely hard to do. Make sure that you always have things coming along so people are staying engaged. So yeah, I definitely appreciate what you're doing here with the good timeline.
Yeah, we're trying. Um, and then later on down the road, there's some really cool things that are integrated in, depending on, obviously adoption and everything else that continues on. Um, there's things like play to advertise, right? So the Cardinal House could have its own like team,
Hmm.
and your statistics are monitored on chain. And then as you move up in your team leaderboard, right, depending on which leaderboard you're on, you earn the rights and the ability to advertise on the platform itself, right? So help to build not just our community, but build other communities as well and get them engaged with their own little communities. Like, let's get to the top of the board. Let's get some eyes on us, and let's actually have some fun while we're doing it, right? I was in a space this morning that was entirely about community building and Web3. And that was a big conversation piece, right? Was, building these communities and getting them engaged and how do you bring them around? And that's kind of what the Play to Advertise does, and the ability to have teams on this thing where you guys can look at how well you all do together. Um, and there's some other things that kind of continue on down the roadmap, late in the roadmap. Actually, I would call it my final stage. In a Dragon Ball Z reference, final form, right? Um, is what I call party or bar mode, right? Where the game is like played at the bar, right? So it's up on the screen, right? You get your 8 players playing, but the members and the people at the bar are voting on the winning card, as opposed to whoever has that pink card up there.
I like it.
Again, yeah.
Yeah.
Community is a thing that's oddly missing in Web3 gaming. It really kind of blows my mind with as heavily focused as we all are on Web3. So,
Yeah, that's good stuff. I got more questions as well, but Zach, do you have anything that you'd want to jump in with?
I've got a couple questions, but you can keep firing them away.
Yeah, sure. So the next question I had was just kind of a clarification from what you were talking about initially, with the minting of the NFTs. So when you mint a white card, that doesn't just go in your deck. It's like anybody can use it, and that's how you get that passive income from people winning with your card. Correct?
bingo.
Okay.
Because it's like you own the card in the deck. It's your intellectual property, right?
Hmm.
If someone else uses it, you get a chunk of it.
Okay. And it's like classic apples to apples or Cards Against Humanity, where there's just this huge pile of white cards that people draw
Yeah.
from. And so in this case, it's like there's a one out of however many NFTs there are right now chance of somebody drawing your card
Yeah, so
and
there's
using it.
10,000 white cards and 1,250 pink cards, prompt cards, right? A 1 to 8 ratio.
Okay.
Um, with the model being after, what it kind of looks like when you've got, say, 30,000 games a day being played on this thing. Which, even in our Discord, when people start playing in there, like we've been running the numbers, and the average game time to play is somewhere between 42 and 56 minutes,
Hmm.
right? Um, we give a warning sometimes that if you're gonna play at work on the toilet, be prepared for your coworkers to come try and find you. Had a couple people that were like, "Oh shit!" Like didn't realize they'd been sitting on the toilet for 30 minutes playing the game
Wow.
uh, at work. So
I mean, it's a
um,
good problem on your end for
it is a
people to have.
problem.
Yeah, nice. And you could always
Yes.
reduce that if you wanted by just having it be like less pink cards to win, right?
Well, less pink. Well, the pink cards are just the prompts, right? And since each hand is, excuse me, 7 cards,
Hmm.
um, that just kind of came out to that nice ratio, right?
Sure.
And it may be 8 cards. That's the last thing we're doing because it's also what do you meme? right? Which if you haven't played that, that stuff is awesome. Where you've
Hmm.
got a picture and then you put like the response to the picture on the other side, which is a lot of fun. But yeah, so
Yeah.
simple, fun, extraordinarily complex for the back end.
Yeah, and I think it's important to kind of put out there that like Flip is just not this card game, right? It's like it's also a launch pad or a platform for other card games in the future. So they built it out as a DAO. Also, you have your white cards. Like, let's just say 20 people go out and make like these silly Will Smith jokes that are just irrelevant in a year. The DAO can vote out certain cards that just don't get played, and it gives you an opportunity to remint. I think once, right, Aaron?
So currently, yeah, right. So that's kind of the next conversation that we're having, right? Is how many times do you get to change your card, right? And early on, we'd settled on one or two. We're kind of leaning towards just letting people just change the card as they see fit, just to maintain relevance. But that's still kind of an ongoing conversation, and the modeling for it has to be pushed out to see which one is going to ultimately be best for the game, because the game is the most important part of it, right? Over everything. But if anybody's ever played the original Cards Against Humanity and you've gone back to play now, like I pulled out an old deck, a lot of the cards just aren't relevant anymore, or they're played out, they're not funny. So you want to keep a fresh, steady change in the cards, continuing forward to move with whatever the current climate is in the society in the world. So, like Nino was saying, when Will Smith happened, we saw like, oh my gosh, we saw so many Will Smith cards getting played. But in 3 months, how relevant is that, right?
Right.
So right now, it's real funny. Who knows what does it look like then?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's really cool, and then the game's expandable too. So like we can have a Latin version, we can have an Asian version for like Asian America. We can have actually a couple of big companies even asked if they could have like their own deck, like a smaller deck, just kind of with their own, because every niche and every market like has their own jokes, right? Like ours, in this space, it's like When Moon, like Wrecked, all this stuff, and everybody has their stuff. So having like specific decks for other companies would be awesome. Just having them able to mint their own kind of like smaller deck and play amongst themselves in their own small circles.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really cool. Would it be kind of complex in the back end side to have like the separation of all these different decks, or is that something you've already incorporated?
It's something we've already looked into incorporating. Yeah, I mean, it
Okay.
was.
Nice.
I come from a special operations military background, and we had a saying: if it's one, it's none. Meaning that if it only does one thing, you didn't carry it on you, right?
Hmm.
Because it just wasn't worth the weight. But when I approach development, I approach it with that same concept, right? If this thing can only do one thing, is it worth developing? Is it worth our time and our resources to spend with it? So everything that I build or ideate out or architect is designed to be scalable and expandable and reusable so that we end up with a nice library of intellectual property that we can continue to expand on and build on as we're coming out with new products.
Yeah, that's really good. Respect that a lot.
Yeah, one question I had was a little bit of a change of directions is when people go in to cash in their tokens, are they going to be swapping these on a decentralized exchange, or what's kind of the process of that?
It'll be a decentralized exchange, at least to start. Now, if we get picked up by centralized exchanges so that people can go play this elsewhere, awesome. But yeah, it definitely starts in the decentralized world.
Okay, and then a follow-up question to that is there's obviously going to have to be a liquidity pool created for it to be tradable, and then people are going to be getting their royalties from these cards. So there's going to be a lot of this selling pressure. What do you have in mind to keep up the buying pressure so that it evens out over time?
So, so I don't know if Nino touched on it because I got in here a little late. I was in another meeting. So what we did is we've got a guy, and I call him a vice president of gameonomics. Um, and he's got a master's from MIT in economics, and because he's a sadist, he's also got another master's from MIT in statistics. Um, right, like dude's crazy, but he's a game dev, right? He comes from the gaming world. So we sat down and asked that same question, right? Is like, how does this look? How does this how do we get this, right? So there's two modes, right? There's your standard play to earn, right, which just gets you these PDE tokens. And then there's play to govern, play to farm, whatever you want to call it, where your PDE tokens go into the pot in the middle, and then you earn DAO tokens, which gives you the rights to help govern the game. It gives you the rights for minting and a few other down the roadmap things that are going to come. And so what we did is we built in a macroeconomic formula in the middle, right, for the way that this functions based off of a Nobel bonding curve. Well, he did. He's the one that found it. He's a genius. But what it does is the more the game is played for free, then, or the more it's played in that play to earn, or the more the farming and staking pools that are part of this are used, where you earn PDE tokens, the greater the reward for DAO tokens, right, in that play to govern mode. The modeling suggests that what will happen is that as people are earning more DAO tokens, they'll want to just go straight to DAO token winnings versus the P2E, right? Especially once they've gotten into it, and that will force that up. There's also the staking pools for liquidity providers that come in play. So the first couple weeks of the game, there's not going to be massive liquidity pools or anything like that. It's just going to be play. These are basically like points, and then we'll make it tradable down the line. And that does a number of things for us. One, it gets people in there, it gets them engaged. But the second thing that it does is it helps us to avoid being registered or labeled as security, right? Which is, obviously an important thing and one of the advisements that the legal team gave to us. So we play, and then people can add liquidity. We can add liquidity in there to do that. And then chunks of the mints go into the LP pools to continue that depth.
That's well thought out. Very well thought out. That was just my biggest concern. Was like, if everybody's earning these tokens, then what's going to be stopping the price from just tanking nonstop? But yeah, like you said, that guy sounds like he's a pretty smart guy. So
I mean, like the honest answer is that everything that's happening in Web3, especially in PDE gaming right now, is you're having to build an economy.
Mhm.
And when you really like grasp that, like, oh crap, I'm building an economy, and that like finally sets in, you kind of realize how daunting of a task that is. And when you look at games like Axie in particular, right, it's obviously number one PD Web3 game, and you take a look at their tokenomics, well, Ponzonomics, you kind of see the problem that comes with this, right, which is the way it does. And so you have to build in some sort of economic model somewhere where you have movement and fluctuations within these pools and incentivizing people to get in different areas and different places for different times. So, but at the end of the day, I mean, the answer is like, we're all really, really early and really, really new. So these are all experiments, and all you can do is think through it as much as you can and run models and testing and talk to everybody under the sun and look at every other game and try to learn from all of it and build out the best possible thing that you can. So,
Yeah, definitely makes sense. We're still in the way early stages of everything in crypto, so it's definitely exciting to see where everything is going to take us, and especially the way that you guys are going with mainstream adoption, with bringing people in through a fun game. And I think that's brilliant. And like you guys said, you have multiple products through Accel that are outside of Flip that are also going to accelerate the growth of DeFi as a whole. And I think they have a lot of synergies together that will be very fruitful in the coming
yeah,
years.
What's super cool is some of the really, really cool protocols that have been built for this are now expandable out into other products, right?
Hmm.
So we built out affiliate marketing because we've been working with marketers and talking to them, and they're influencers, right? At the end of the day, most of these people, unless they're an actual marketing agency. Um, and so, they're like, oh, I can sell out this or I can do that. And I'm like, cool. Well, can you show me what else you've done? And they show me and they're like, yeah, I sold out this one. And I'm like, so we go and we run through our analytics department, we run the analytics, and it's like, hey man, there was like 5 other influencers on this. How did you contribute, or how do you know? And the answer is they don't know,
Hmm.
right? They're very new to this marketing industry, so there's no way to validate ROI. So we built out a way that they can do that where they get their own link, and when somebody goes from their link to mint something, they get their little cut of it. And now we have quantifiable data on chain to say this one's good, this one's good, this one's good. This one wasn't great, but maybe it's because they're an art focused NFT community, right? Is their reach versus a Web3 gaming community, right? And so now you'll be able to do that. One of the things that I'm super super excited about though is that each of the cards is a vesting capsule. So if you're getting in on the pre-sale, you actually end up with P2E and DAO tokens vested within the NFT as a card, right? So they get released at a scheduled rate, which means that like, okay, so maybe you're not as funny as you thought, right? Because that does happen. We've noticed that people think they're
Yep.
really funny, but you still get value out of having those tokens. But what that does is that provides a whole nother level of pre-sales for tokens where we can set them up with this, right? They want to do a pre-sale, but they don't want all their pre-salers to dump, right? So now you can hand them their pre-salers this NFT that's got vested out tokens, right? But the tokens are limited to the NFT controller or NFT owner, right? Which means that okay, you got in this pre-sale, you've made your profit, and now you're just like, okay, I'm not really interested anymore. I don't want to be here. Well, now you can go put that NFT on the market with those vested tokens in it, and someone else can take over that vesting schedule and take it on. So providing a whole nother pre-sale outlet for IDOs that are happening, as opposed to the current vesting schedules are very limited to a single individual to a single address. We link it to an NFT that can then be sold on the open market outside of this, right? And so what that also does is it allows you to buy into a speculative long-term asset that could be coming, right? So this could, in theory, potentially kind of be used for like real estate and home loans, selling up mortgages, because the NFT could represent a mortgage and the payments that go to that mortgage are there, right? So that's kind of that MBS mortgage-backed security kind of deal where you could pile a bunch of these things in, right? The thing that crashed the entire economic market in 2008. But
Yep.
you could in theory make these things on chain now using some of these protocols.
Yeah, definitely. That's really cool. There's a lot more to it than just a card game, huh?
Right. And that's kind of a hard thing to make people understand. And that's what I was talking about earlier, right? Like, how do you, when there's all of this that's going on in DeFi and in blockchain tech and Web3 tech, how do you explain this to somebody? Right? Like, it's too much. It's too daunting, right? Like, you might spend 2 hours just trying to figure out what farming is, especially if you've never been in there. You might spend 2 hours just trying to figure out how to make a wallet work. Um, you know, and the reason that this passion came from me of onboarding people in the easiest manner was I go to a lot of crypto conferences, a lot of them. And I was in this VIP lounge with Brock Pierce, and we were talking about, onboarding people and like what it looks like and, frustrations with it. And I pointed to the bartender. I was like, that guy's the most important one here. And he was like, I don't. He's like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, when I got here, that guy just had a bucket, right, for tips. But we're in this VIP lounge, and there's $1 billion worth of crypto probably in this lounge. $1 billion. And this guy's got a bucket for fiat currency at a crypto conference. So I asked him, I was like, hey man, I don't have cash. Like, what's your crypto wallet? Right? I'll tip you over that way. He didn't have one. right? So we spent the next 40 minutes walking him through MetaMask and everything else. And then I went down to the business center, printed out his QR code, jacked one of the document holder things off the front hotel desk, and stuck it up there. He made $4,000 that night.
Oh wow.
But it was
Wow.
that moment that I realized that we've got a problem as far as the industry goes of getting these people in. And these are the important people because we can build out all this amazing technology we want, but if we don't have a user base that understands it or a user base that can use it, then it doesn't matter what we're building.
Yeah. Great point. I know you have Accel University, the YouTube
Mm-hmm.
channel, teaching people how to get into DeFi and all of the different aspects of it. So you guys are definitely doing your part in helping that grow as a whole, or crypto. So, well, do you have anything else to add?
Well, actually, I was just wondering if we could maybe have some people ask some questions to Aaron too. I think it'd be a good time to jump into that, unless you have anything else, Zach, you want to ask beforehand.
Nothing specifically. We went over a lot. I mean, this is a pretty massive card game.
Yeah, that's for sure. We do actually have one question from Chris in our chat. He asked, "Will there be a mobile game version of Flip in the future?"
Yep. The progressive web app is intended to be a mobile centric, right? We do know that 80% of people that are in this or play these games are on mobile. So the progressive web app will be that. And I was kind of chatting about it earlier, working to get it. The Android store will be relatively easy. They pretty much just accept anything. The iOS store will be a little more challenging. Um, we've got some connections over there that we've been talking to. We've got the Outlook is good, but at the end of the day, it's still Apple. And then there's a couple of other solutions I've been working on if we can't get just a Flip app, um, which would actually, it seems more complicated, but it's to have the Flip app built into a wallet um, natively. So, but yeah, trying to make sure we can find any possible solution that we can to get this where it needs to go in front of the eyes. It needs to be to give people a reference on applications like this that are in there. Um, the Evil Apples currently is a game like this on iOS. It's on iOS and Android, but on iOS alone, it has it's 200,000 reviews. And to put that into perspective, the average review rate is between 0.8 and 1.2% of users.
Hmm.
So that expands your user base for that game out to 20 million people.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that game,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
that game charges. Like
Oh, wow.
people pay for it, right? They pay like a couple bucks, or they pay for some other stuff within it. So if you could imagine the potential for this game as a free game to be played, and then on the top of that, people wanting to get into crypto but not knowing how, and this being a simple and easy way for them to get in, you can really kind of see the breadth of how far you could actually take such a simple game.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about. And I wanted just to quickly say that with the difficulties that getting on the iOS store is with, the whole crypto and NFT concept, and them being a little cautious about that. If you do get on the Apple store, that could be so huge because of the barrier to entry. There's going to be so many or so much less competition because there's that massive barrier to entry. So, and I do believe it's totally doable with your concept. I mean, it's not like it's a sketchy game at all that's asking you to pay at crypto or something like that. I mean, it's a really cool, simple to play game that everybody enjoys. And I think you guys will have a lot of success in getting on there, but just that barrier to entry makes it that much harder for competition to pop up. So I do see that as actually a good thing.
Yeah, and to be fair, Apple is kind of loosening up just a little bit. I was talking with Chris Clay from Gods Unchained, and they're making real good forward progress on their app getting onto iOS. So we know that Apple is open to it and willing to do some level of it. It's what level they're willing to go to that that hasn't been determined yet.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, anybody from the audience want to raise their hands or type a question in the AMA questions text channel? Be a great time to do so. Well, do you have anything else to add?
Not really. I don't have any more questions. I really appreciate everything that you went over and your anecdotes and explanations of everything and helping people realize like just how complicated crypto is. I think that's something that is a nice addition to, obviously explaining flip like we are here for. So much appreciated.
Absolutely.
Anybody have any questions about flip or just anything in with Accel?
Crypto in general, directions of the market.
Yeah, we can answer everything.
My favorite topic. Not that my friends, well, not that I have any in real life friends anymore because they're all tired of hearing about it.
Yeah, kind of. When you get into crypto, it's hard to not talk about crypto because it's just so revolutionary.
Once you start to understand it, it's a whole nother level. Oh, well, Flip actually we did get a grant from Harmony, from their blockchain, and have some upcoming conversations with Polygon Studios as well. So that's real exciting to be able to get them in there. They really like this. What did my partner, one of our investors, he coined it crypto for the common man concept, right? Is a real big one because they're all trying to figure out this same solution of how do we onboard the next generation.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, I see Nino Man joined back with us. I don't know if you got disconnected, but if there's anything you want to say, we're actually just about to wrap it up. Anything you wanted to add?
No, just it kicked me out. It wasn't letting me back in. Sorry about that.
Yeah, Discord's glitchy
No,
sometimes.
yeah, it just wouldn't even open up Discord link anymore. But anyway, no, thank you guys for having us. Always a pleasure, and it was great talking to you guys on the AMA you guys had in our community, and I knew this would be a great one too as well.
Yeah, for sure. There's actually one question. Somebody asked if you could touch up on the Unwrecked app.
Yes, I can.
When unwrecked, sir.
Yes, I know, right? So let's a quick discussion on Unwrecked, right? So Unwrecked was born out of this degen world that I was like heavily like living in. And it started out as this simple way to place limit orders on any blockchain DEX out there. What it ended up growing into as I continued to architect the technologies out is essentially a full-on decentralized trading desk. So what has happened with that is our initial development firm was out of Belarus, and then they had contracted some of that out to Ukraine. So anybody knows what's currently happening in that side of the world?
Right.
Yeah, and that has caused honestly some delays that I'm not crazily happy about. But ultimately, right, I also come, like I said, come from a military background, so I'm very sympathetic to what's happening over there. So it's front end screens are all developed. It's architected, and the technologies that need to be implemented into it are identified to get to where it needs to go. We are looking at roughly 3 months to a good MVP, and then probably 1 month after that to the MLP. For those that haven't ever heard me use the term MLP, MVP is minimum viable product, and MLP is minimum lovable product, right?
Nice.
Right, and the MLP is always my focus heavily, right? Is what is the lovable thing? What is the people thing that people want to use? And that again, that piece of technology and that entire protocol incorporates a bunch of other things, right? It incorporates charting, it incorporates mempools and nodes and diving into all of that, right? Again, though, this is all opaque to the front end user, which is always the goal. And if anybody's ever made something and tried to make it something complex and then try to make it simple, that's a really hard thing to do. Right? So we've been working really, really hard at that exact thing, which is making this thing as simple as possible, but still making it powerful enough that the hardcore traders can use it as well. So we've had some interest when I was at the Bitcoin conference from some hedge funds that really want the product, and from a couple of other different private equity investors. So it's coming along, and I know it's taking longer than any of us had hoped. I was honestly hoping that I would have an MVP out last week, but the current market for developers is really, really rough, to say the least. Those that don't know, Ukraine supplies somewhere in the area of like 40% of the developers.
Of
Wow.
Web3 developers?
Yeah,
Oh
of
wow.
like Web3 have that well, and that region as a whole is even higher, especially when you start getting into Eastern Bloc type of
Mhm.
stuff. Quick historical background on why that is. Um, when they were all Soviet satellites, Soviets really pushed hard for rocket scientists and space exploration, and they pushed real hard for that level of education. Uh, and that mentality has not left that region. So you end up with a lot of really, really talented developers that have been pushed really hard into these technical skill sets. And so that whole region over there is just full of them. It's also where they've been concentrated, though,
Right.
right? And so that whole political shenanigans has really, really been a pain in the butt. I have another development firm that I work with that is actually out of Kiev, and we actually had to work to evacuate their families, right? Like,
Oh wow.
coming from my
Yeah.
background, I reached out to some friends that are doing stuff and things over there, and they were able to get some of their families out to Poland. So, it's that whole situation over there has really put a turmoil on the overall development of a lot of things. Not just us are feeling it, but it looks like, yeah, we're sitting about roughly 3 months from an MVP, if not, it may happen sooner. Um, but I'm a big fan of telling people that something's going to take 3 months and then
Mhm.
trying to drop it faster. Uh, but no, there's a heavy part of whatever's going on over there that is really weighing on things. So I, I apologize for all the delays, guys.
Definitely understandable though, and whatever it takes to get to that MLP, as you said, I think that people really appreciate the product no matter how long it takes because it seems like it'll be pretty revolutionary in a space that already is revolutionary.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. And if not, then I just spent a whole bunch of money to build something, but at least I'll be able to use it. Uh, I mean, the whole thing was built out of the fact that I just wanted to be able to sleep at night without wondering if I was going to wake up to, you know,
Right.
a, it's a massive red candle, and that I didn't like the current limit orders that were on chain offered by the smart contracts. Um, I didn't like having to pay to put an order in, pay to stop an order, and then wondering if the order was going to work or if it was going to move fast enough. Because I went out and tested them a lot, trying to find just an out of the box solution, and I just couldn't find one that works to the level that I wanted it to work at. And so I built in some fun little back end stuff, very proprietary that are it's very degen specific things, safety features. So uh, I'm excited about those. But
Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah, and then Scott said, "Ask him what he means by pay for the order."
oh, So the way the current limit order systems work, they don't use like meta transactions or anything like that. You actually put in the limit order and it goes into a smart contract that watches for the price to change via a external server. But because you're putting it into a smart contract that's watching for the order to execute your order, you have to pay the gas fee to write to that contract.
Okay, that makes sense.
And yeah, so you'll see at like low, um, gas costs, you're looking at like $3 to $4 for an order. At a high gas cost, though, it was like 30 to 40.
Hmm.
And then if you decide to change your mind, you got to write it again to stop the order.
Right.
Right. That's for Ethereum blockchain, though, right?
That's on Ethereum, right?
Okay.
On Binance, I think it was like a nickel or something like that. But then also when testing some of these things, what I found was that they weren't fast, right? Like they would miss the target point because they just couldn't read it fast enough because of the amount of time that the server's being used to monitor prices and everything else on their end. And then because it's got to monitor it, then it's got to send a transaction to the smart contract, it has to send another transaction out to place the order and actually execute it. And
Hmm.
that just we were missing. I was missing targets left and right. So I was just very frustrated with what was available in the current market.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thought I just had was, would it be possible to kind of do it like a front run bot where it would pay higher gas fees to get the trade through before there was a big sell?
It's entirely possible. There's a lot of expense that comes into that. Um, in the API calls and everything else, like on the service side of it. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a concept that that is part of the process.
Okay.
It's just finding the service provider for reading mempools fast enough um, that can do that, and that's the real challenge, right? Is being able to read this fast enough and execute quick enough that it can get out before something happens or get out right when you need it to, right when you need it to sell, or if you're doing trail stops, right, it could follow it up and then down, or if you're doing DCA settings, right, where you're just trying to accumulate every time this thing gets dropped, right, um, grabbing that quick enough is always a challenge before somebody else tries to grab it, right? So when I was speaking with some of the hedge fund, because I have a friend that's in one that has something that's similar to this. They won't obviously hand over the tech for it. I tried really hard to buy it so that I just make my life easier.
Right.
Theirs is also not really user friendly. It's programmer developed, designed to do that using command lines and stuff like that. But he connected me with a really, really good service provider for exactly what we're talking about right now. So excited about that because it's really, really, really fast.
Yeah, good stuff.
I'm trying to beat the hedge funds.
Yeah, aren't we all? Aren't we all?
Yeah. It's speed wise, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing about that. I'm excited for that. I think that's definitely a tool that a lot of traders will use, so that could be very popular. Yeah, if anybody else has any questions, go right ahead, but if not, then I think we're ready to call it a wrap. Yeah, it's been great to hear from you guys again. So best of luck going forward. I will definitely be playing Flip, especially once the app comes out. Make it nice and easy. I can take a little bit of a longer bathroom break as you were mentioning before.
You should definitely go on Discord and play because right now it's where you make your own responses, and man, people are dark.